Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Sherry Turquoise and today we will be doing a slideshow on fantasy, sci-fi, and fiction for world building. This video might be on the longer end, it might not be. Actually might be the average video length for these computer screen ones. So world building for fantasy and science fiction and fiction by Sherry Turquoise. Just a full disclaimer that all these information that I have on here is information that I have looked up and I have practiced some of this world building. It is not to a full extent. So the beginning, it's the essence of your story, so it's the main thing of your story to help make it real. Gives richness to your story, so for people that don't quite understand this, it also gives flavor or gives depth of your story, because your characters cannot be in a world with no world. Lets readers get information that they need. So as a reader reading the story, they gather information about the world. And in this video, we will be breaking it down into 3 sections. The first one is the imaginary world. The second one is alternate reality, and the third one is actual location. So in this picture, we have a picture of the world where it is extremely important. So the imaginary world is the most complex thing in world building because you are making this from scratch, and this can be normally found in fantasy or any type of fantasy book and science fiction. Those are the common genres that you will find them. So for fantasy, or any type of fantasy, generosity, the Savior's Champion book is a good one, and so this whole world is built basically from scratch. A science fiction one would be the Cyborg Tinker, I believe it's called. That book is coming out soon, but that is a sci-fi book. For people that have never world built, especially this kind of world building, it can be scary and daunting, and you might not know where to start. So to start, you should start with something that interests you or something that you like in the world. So let's say you like the history part of the world building, so you can start off there. And then it gets easier to expand your world from there. So if you started with history, you can expand your world from there. And then once you're done that, you work out details in your outline, world outline, and ask yourself some questions while making your world. So always find something that interests you. So if you like the history part of your history, maybe that is something you're going to start off with the world building. I just have this as something scary. I tried to find a picture that wasn't really too scary, but also indicate that it can be scary with world building. And with this one, it just shows that it's your world expanding, and never be afraid to ask questions. overwhelmed. So ask yourself about your world. So ask questions like, where is this city gonna be, or why is this city here? And create laws of your world. So what is the law if someone were to, let's say, rob a bank? If you have a bank in your world, only put important information in your world in your novel. So if you do, let's say you have 100% finished this, but really, realistically, you only will need about 10% of the information you gather about your world or put into the story. You only need about 10% of it, give or take. Because it's not the main focus, but it is essential. And not all questions will need to be answered, so the pile of questions that you have, not all the questions will be relevant and important to the plot and the story. However, it is extremely important that you still answer them, answer your important questions, and then come back to the ones that are not so important. Because they might be important in like a book 2 or something like that. And the famous show don't tell. And when you're doing this, it's best to describe your world through characters' eyes, but try not to info dump. Take a step back if you're feeling really overwhelmed, like almost anxious, or like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. Just take a step back and take a break. So we got the Mr. here with all this information. We got someone here taking a break, and then we got the famous show don't tell. This is an old saying that means give the reader's actions, thoughts, senses, and feelings rather than simple descriptions. So they have, for an example, for no, Mr. Smith was fat, grouchy old man, and the yes section is Mr. Smith heaved his heavy frame out of the armchair, and while trying to reach for his cane, grumbling, Susan, get yourself over here now. And then we just got this truck dumping information onto this one person that people just can't watch because it's the horror. Reality and fantasy collide. This one you can find in a few genres. This one you can find mostly in. You can find it in sci-fi and fantasy for sure if it's on the weaker end. So like Harry Potter, the whole series, Transformers, Jurassic Park, the Hollows, those would be the good ones. So in this one, you can find inspirations in real life. So your world can be based on location, and you can collide it with the fantasy world. And can have your fiction world merge into the real world. So with this, we're using Disney because Disney obviously used a location for Rapunzel. So this is where it alternates the reality or collide the reality in a way. So they got this inspiration from this area, this location. And as for fantasy virgin with the real world, we have someone with what looks to be with blue skin and mask. I'm sorry about the amount of yawning, I just woke up. Alternate reality. This one is less demanding of world building, and this one is more commonly found in historical fiction and science fiction, but you can find them in other genres as well if they put this in it. I'm making a different version of the real world, so like dystopian with the Hunger Games, Divergent, and Day After Tomorrow, Transformers, uh, Jurassic Park or Jurassic World. Those are all alternates. Now, possibility of different futures. So the Hunger Games is a possibility of a future, which is pretty dark, or it could be like something like the Divergent, which is possible, or something like Zombieland. So our future could be alternate. Most important question when you are doing this type of world building is what if, because you're going into more of the science section of it and have something that is hard to believe. So let's say the Hunger Games. The Hunger Games are split into small towns, 13 districts, and then they have one big city. Well, in this one big city, they have all this advanced technology, but if you go into the small district, specifically a district like District 12, where they are struggling to survive and lack the technology, I have basically no hot water until someone wins the Hunger Games, then they get hot water, kind of thing. That is something that is very hard to believe that that kind of technology will only be in one location other than TVs. Another one that would be hard to believe is Divergent, with the how everything is split into 4 sections, because that is really hard to believe because of how the human race operates, because we're every single one. Yes, we're a little bit more of one than the other, but we'll still show traits of all of them. That's where it's a little bit harder to believe in that one. And you might have to work harder to get readers' attention with this one because it is an alternate reality. It will be harder to suck in the readers into it. And you need to ask yourself what time period. So in this case, the Divergent and the Hunger Games are all taking place somewhere in the far future. Transformers is taking place in the 21st century. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World is also taking place in the 21st century. Those were the pictures. I thought I had another one. Sorry about that. So building blocks, must be aware of facts when you're doing something like this. You need to be aware of your facts on this. If you're doing like an alternate reality, like something like Jurassic Park specifically, you definitely need to do your research. Oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know I could use the world part of the mouse. Okay. So research the history, especially if you're gonna have something that is gonna be in the story, but it's gonna be altered. You should definitely know your facts before you change it up. On the side and decide on what path you're going to take. So with this one, it can be like, are you going to show the after effects of a pandemic or a apocalypse? Or are you going to actually show us what it's like living in that type of world? So 10 interesting facts about dreams. This one is more for the facts section. Facts. And someone's researching history. And this is just multiple doors of where you what you are decided with your world and what door you plan on taking with your journey, with your story. So actual location is I think the easiest thing in world building because you're just going by the actual location. And all you have to do is research that location. Unless you were born there, then you'll basically have that location down, like know it like back up palm your hand kind of thing. In this case, it will be creating a sense of place, and setting becomes a character in itself, but not 100%. And the best thing to do to get to know the feel of your actual location is pack your bags. However, during the pandemic, that is not necessarily possible to go to the location. So in this case, you need to do a lot of research, and it can also be the place that you grew up in, which will be the easiest thing to research if you don't know everything, but you know a good portion of it. Fortunately, with this is you can't go to the actual location. Let's say you want your story based on Japan. Unfortunately, you can't just hop onto a plane and go there at this moment. However, maybe soon or in the near future, we can go back that way. That's when you can actually, when it's safe to go back to travel, and you can pack your bags and go to the location as long as you can afford to and spend time in that environment. I read books that take place in real world locations. So in this case, my horror dark fantasy actually is taking place in an actual location, but at the exact same time it does not, because it has different locations. That is fantasy. It actually could even qualify as urban fantasy, but there are real world locations for this one. And another one that is real world actual location is actual long serialization books like Just Listen, Lock and Key. This Lullaby, I believe, is another one. Those are all taking place in actual locations, but the story itself is fiction. When you're doing this, write notes, ideas for your story, and tips. If you notice that, write notes. So the tips part is that you write down what they have done for their world to make it seem real, or how they done it with their actual location to help make it solidified. But don't steal and don't copy, because that is cheating and copyright. So in this one, we just got a couple of locations. We got one at the library doing some reading and researching. This could be a location idea for your story, and if someone jotting down notes. Research. Write an event that happened in the past. So we're going to use Transformers movie 3 or 4. There was a scene with Bumblebee in World War II that is altering the history part of that, because we never had Transformers in World War II. So they would have to do research on that alone. to make sure the information is accurate from World War II before adding Bumblebee in. A deep dive of that time period, especially if you're doing like a historical fiction or more historical fiction, because you'll definitely need to know your world and the history of that location. Ask person that's from that period. That's only if they're still alive. Let's say I'm going to use World War II for example again, because there are still people alive from when they did World War II, and so you can ask them what it was like in that time period. If they're the military, if they were in the military and helped out with World War II, you could talk to them and ask them questions about what was it like to be in the military in World War II, and those kind of questions. Now, if it was someone that wasn't in the world, in the military, you can still ask them questions like that. It all depends on which perspective you're going to go for. I recommend doing both, just in case you have like a two-character point of view, or let's say a child or someone that's close to being ready to enroll with the military, so that way you could see both. Hope that makes sense. Read historical fiction books. The only historical fiction book that I know of, which I'm pretty sure there's more, is The Huntress. I know there's more historical fiction, is I have not found them, because actually this is a brand new genre that I didn't even know existed, so I'm slowly expanding. So we got someone excited with reading, someone asking someone's questions, and this person doing some research. Speak with your senses. Write or talk about senses of your world: sight, smell, taste, hear, and feel. So when you're doing the world building, you don't really want to do it in a third, ominous, or far distance perspective. You want to do it in like a first person point of view, like the way we feel things. So feeling the grass tickling my toes, smelling the moist in the air. If there's taste, I tasted the tomato paste for the very first time. These are horrible examples, but I hope you really understand what I mean. Birds chirping in the background. Seeing my friends for the very first time. Seeing my best friend after 5 years of not seeing them. I know those are not the best examples, but I really hope that it's understandable. Avoid info dumping of your world and character. So in this case, was like the other section of this slide. Don't overwhelm the reader with information like 1 to 2 pages of information about your world. 2 to 3 paragraphs of your character, of information or description of your character. That is a one-way ticket for your readers to put down the book and close it and never look at it again. Unless that reader really likes that kind of stuff. Take breaks when feeling overwhelmed. yes, you definitely will need to take breaks because at some point in time you will be feeling overwhelmed. I haven't quite used all of these tips quite yet, but I'm starting to with world building. On the history part of my world is a little bit more of a challenge because I just put into like a prequel story. That's how I do the history of my worlds, because my worlds technically have a more simple history unless it's based on a certain character's point of view of that location. Then I will do a more in-depth part of the history. But I just don't, because I don't like history. That is my least favorite part. So whenever I get into that topic, I actually spoke to a friend who loves doing history, and I've asked her to see if she can help me with the history part of the world, and she has agreed to it. We just have not had the time to fit it all in. Because she loves history, and she also makes history sound really interesting. If you guys know any history books that actually make history sound very interesting instead of boring, like what they done in high school, like those kind of boring textbooks. But if you know a writer or an author that has done history books, but made it sound very very interesting, and a high visual learner can understand it and not just struggle with it, let me know down in the comments. Maybe that will help with finding it interesting. So your five senses, they're extremely important when you're writing your story, especially if you're doing it in a first person perspective. First person point of view is actually even important when you're doing it in a third person ominous. It's just you have to change it slightly, or at least that's what I've noticed. Someone that's gathered information and is feeling a little overwhelmed with the amount of information that he has, and someone taking a break to let everything sink in without panicking. So thank you for watching. Click the like button, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment down below. Click that bell icon to get notified of all my posts, because I post videos once a week for writing related, and then I post a second video that is non-writing related every other week. I'm going to try to do this on Fridays. The current video that is going to be coming is actually going to be my online schooling experience with each unit. So that will be done every single week. And I'm also started blogging my editing experience with the Horror Dark Fantasy, so those videos will also be uploaded as well. So you will be finding more videos uploaded every single week until one of them is done or both of them is done. Then they'll go back to basically normal. So you'll probably be finding 3 videos a week plus a live stream on Mondays. Some weeks 4 videos. And I always upload bonus videos. So click that bell icon to get notified of all my posts, because for the next several weeks I will be uploading at least 3 to 4 videos every week. And yeah, that sounds about right. And follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and Facebook. All the links are down below. And I'll see you guys next time. And remember, stay true to yourself and stay unique. Let me know what you think of these slideshows. Are they helpful and are they not? What?